Good morning. Welcome back to Mull. And your first message from Mull from kayak. I will prove it in a minute, but you can probably hear the water. I'm not sitting in a swimming pool, I promise. I'm just off Loch Don on the Isle of Mull. So, last week we started talking a little bit about habits, good and bad, and we said we'd come back to you today and talk a little bit about what it takes really to become a little bit more aware of them and how we can start to create some good habits and perhaps do away with some of our bad habits. Now, I've got a rather large boat coming towards me here, so I'm just going to make sure we're going to be out of the swell of this guy as he comes past. He's going to think I'm a proper nutter out here talking to myself. So, there are, let's say, 4 elements going on when we're talking about how a habit is formed and why we carry them out. So we talked a little bit about this last week. We have a cue, something that triggers the behavior. We have a craving, a sort of a need and what we want to achieve from that habit. We have a response, i.e. what we do, and a reward, a sort of final outcome, hopefully. So for example, this morning my cue, my trigger was I woke up and flat seas and light winds. My craving was to get out on the water and see if I could get close to an otter in the kayak, which you'll be glad to hear I have just done. My response was put the kayak on the roof rack and off I go, and the reward was getting very close to some quite fantastic nature. But let's keep it more simple. Say it's something as simple as your phone buzzes. That's the cue, that's the trigger. The craving is I want to find out what the message is. The response is you check your email, your text, and the reward is you find out what that message was about. Or if it's, say, let's relate it to food. If you walk down the high street and you smell a bacon buddy, which is always a nice smell first thing in the morning, that can become your trigger. Your craving is you crave the bacon buddy. The response is you buy a bacon roll, and the reward is you satisfy that craving for a bacon sandwich. Now the problem is that can then become a habit, and what we start to associate it with is walking down the high street. That starts to become the trigger, because you know that walking down the high street you're going to get these smells, and then you're going to crave a bacon buddy. So one of the key things around habit destruction or destruction of bad habits is trying to make them invisible, trying to make the cue invisible, trying to make the trigger invisible. So it's going to be quite a big swell coming off this boat, so I'm just going to paddle a little bit as we talk. Alternatively, when we want to develop good habits, we need to make the trigger and the cue as obvious as possible. So it's there in front of our face, and it's going to sort of remind us of what we're trying to achieve and incentivize us. So for example, if you want to eat a bit more fruit, then don't put it in the bottom of the fridge. Why don't we take it and put it in a fruit ball and set it in the middle of the dining room table or your living room table, where you're going to see it on a regular basis and you're going to be cued and triggered to make that response. Because until some of these things become conscious, it can be difficult to develop them, and that goes both for good habits and bad habits. So sometimes when it comes to trying to deal with your bad habits, the first thing we need to do is be very, very honest about them. And perhaps it might be an idea to write down all the sort of general habits that you do during the day. Take a bit of time, have a bit of thought, and then write a plus and a minus next to all of them. So you can start to identify the habits that are getting you closer to the identity that you want to achieve, closer to the person that you want to be, and also all the habits that are taking you further away from that desired identity. Because as I say, if these habits remain unconscious, then you're always going to struggle to deal with them. And really, to start with, it's a case of just being aware of what habits exist. It's a bit like when people start to try and lose weight. What we always say to them is, first of all, write down where you are at the minute. Write down the sort of foods you're eating and what time they're going in. Because until you understand where you are currently, it can be quite difficult to make a change. So my advice would be the same when it comes to habits. Write them down, and almost just as if you're observing from a distance the sort of things you do. Don't get too hung up straight away on, oh my God, I've got lots of bad habits and I really need to sort myself out. Just let's get a base to work from. Let's be aware of our habits and start from there. And what we'll do next week then is look at how we make the craving a bit less satisfying. I've just seen another otter, so what I'll do is finish this off. I'll catch up with you later. What we might do is post a little video of the otter if I can get one, and this is just to prove that I haven't been messing you about and sitting in a rather big puddle somewhere. This is locked on. Actually, hold on, you'll get Grass Point right behind me there. And just behind me there are a couple of sea eagles that have been calling all morning. So, amazing spot. And I will catch up with you next week, guys. Take it easy. Bye bye.